dared to kick a black CEO out of first class. Minutes later, the entire crew was fired. She was halfway through demanding his seat when the cameras started rolling. Flight attendant Chloe Ramirez leaned in her smile, razor thin. "Our real VIP is boarding move." Across the aisle, billionaire Adrian Brooks glanced up, platinum card glinting between his fingers, and answered with quiet steel, "I paid $12,000 for 1C. I'm not moving." 30 rows held their breath. No one knew Chloe had just pocketed 3 crisp hundreds from socialite Victoria Langford, or that in 4 hours every crew member on this aircraft would be out of a job. Injustice just picked the wrong passenger. Every viewer who's ever watched Power crush decency is clenching a fist right now. Those who stand against bias will flood the comments with justice, and their city showing prejudice has nowhere left to hide. The same viewers smash subscribe and like, then buckle in for the full-length reckoning that starts here. Adrian Brooks was the kind of headline Silicon Valley liked to recycle kid from Detroit who cracked his first line of code on a pawn shop laptop, built an algorithm to spot racial bias in customer service, then turned that spark into Helix Mind Solutions, a $3 billion juggernaut. But the headline never mentions the gravestone he still visits every September, his mother's, and the promise he whispered there at 16 to make sure no one else's dignity was bargained away for convenience. That promise drove 18-hour coding marathons in a one-bedroom apartment, fueled the night he sold his car to keep the servers humming, and shaped the rule he lives by on business trips: greet every cleaner by name tip until it stings, carry the luggage of strangers because someone once carried his. This morning, he arrived at LAX for Aurora Air Flight 77, wearing a charcoal suit that cost less than most passengers' shoes. Airport cameras caught him steadying a wobbling stroller, buying hot coffee for an exhausted gate agent, and declining the private lounge so he could work among the crowd he serves. He wasn't just traveling. He was en route to finalize a $45 million contract that would drag Aurora's creaking reservation system into the 21st century, a deal he could cancel with a single signature. What no one outside Helix Mind knew was that Adrian already owned 22% of the airline's publicly traded shares, enough leverage to split their boardroom like glass. Across town, Aurora Air's CEO Jonathan Pierce pored over grim spreadsheets, fuel costs spiking satisfaction scores, sliding investors restless. He prayed the Helix Mind partnership would land before the next earnings call. Meanwhile, on Gate 9's manifest, 2 names glowed red for the crew's high-attention list. The first, Victoria Langford hedge fund princess, famous for stormy Yelp reviews and 4-figure champagne tips always seated in 1C. The second, Adrian Brooks, listed but unnoticed because biases don't read fine print. Chief Purser Bradley O'Connell briefed his staff with a wink. Keep Victoria smiling, and the dollar bills flow. Flight attendant Chloe Ramirez, 3 months behind on rent, nodded harder than anyone. Captain Mark Sheridan, proud of 30 unblemished years aloft, trusted the purser's instincts the way sailors once trusted stars. None of them had Googled Adrian. None imagined a camera flash from Coach could become their career obituary. And none sensed the fuse already sizzling beneath this routine boarding call, a billionaire who once coded through grief, now sitting just rows away from the woman who buys entitlement by the stack, an airline teetering on financial panic, and a crew willing to sell courtesy for the price of a designer latte. In less than an hour, their worlds would collide at seat 1C, and the turbulence wouldn't stop at the cabin door. Chloe spotted the platinum trim boarding pass, and still chose the script that paid better than honesty. She glided to 1C, crouched beside Adrian like a mall cop beside a trespasser, and lowered her voice to an audible hiss. "Sir, we need you to shift to 2D. A frequent flyer with higher importance has arrived." Adrian closed his laptop without looking up. "Your manifest says 1C belongs to Adrian Brooks. That's me." The calmness in his tone sounded like a locked door. Chloe hadn't expected a lock. 6 steps behind her, Victoria Langford sashayed down the aisle in 4-inch heels that announced their price with every click. She halted at arm's length, lips curved in faint disgust, the way someone might stare at gum on a silk dress. "He's in my seat again," she announced to no one, and everyone sliding designer sunglasses onto her head. "Let's not drag this out." Phones rose like periscopes. A college kid in 3A started a live stream under the caption entitled "Lady vs. Calm Dude." Chloe switched to appeasement mode, palms up. "Mr. Brooks, you'll still be in first. Just lose the legroom I paid $12,000 for Adrian finished. I'll stay, thanks." Her smile twitched, then vanished entirely, when Victoria slipped 3 crisp hundreds into her apron pocket with practiced stealth, except the camera in 3A captured it. Frame perfect. "Handle this," Victoria murmured, voice sugared with menace. "I have Shanghai at sunrise." Chloe's fingers clenched around the bills, a cheap mortgage payment for a tiny slice of her integrity. She took it. Purser Bradley O'Connell lumbered forward, shoulders squared, tie knotted like a noose. "Problem here?" he asked, already siding with the cash. He leaned in, volume low, but projection high enough for row 2. "Aurora Air reserves the right to reseat guests for operational needs. Our priority passengers deserve predictable comfort." Adrian flicked open his wallet, revealing an A-Elite metal card and a line item receipt. Operational needs Bradley. Or tip-based preferences. Bradley's jaw tightened. Chloe winced. Victoria exhaled loudly as though boredom were a physical allergy. "Honestly, this is beneath all of us." Mini hooks detonated across the cabin. One passenger whispered, "Bet he's in basic economy clothes pretending." Another countered, "I googled him, he's worth half a stadium." The live stream ticker passed 12,000 viewers. Bradley chose force. Last chance. "Move or we'll deplane you." Adrian tapped his phone camera lens, now staring back at Bradley. "Say that again for the record." Chloe lunged to cover the lens. "Recording crew without consent violates policy. FAA says otherwise unless I obstruct duties." Adrian's voice stayed level, but something ancient flared behind his eyes, the same fire that kept him coding after midnight funerals. Bradley straightened, nostrils flaring. "Captain Sheridan will resolve this." He stalked toward the cockpit, radioing for backup, with the urgency of a man saving face, not safety. Victoria sank into the empty aisle seat, crossing her legs like a queen awaiting coronation. "Some people confuse money with class," she said loudly, ensuring the cabin heard. Adrian's gaze never left Chloe. "Integrity's cheaper than I thought." He wasn't raising his voice. He was raising the stakes. Security's entrance felt choreographed. 2 officers in Navy approached, directed by Bradley's stabbing finger. The live stream cracked 30,000 viewers. Officer 1 cleared his throat. "Sir, you're disrupting boarding." "Define disrupting," Adrian replied. "I'm seated silent and filming evidence." Officer 2 glanced at Chloe. "Is he violating policy?" She hesitated. Guilt fighting rent. He refused instructions from crew. That instruction was to surrender a purchased seat, Adrian cut in. Because she wants it. He gestured to Victoria, whose smirk suggested the ending was already written. Phones multiplied like mirrors. A teenager announced, "Dude, I've got 4K, keep talking." Purser Bradley returned with Captain Sheridan, whose silver hair and upright posture screamed hierarchical finality. The captain addressed Adrian with cockpit calm. "Sir, comply or exit. Those are your options." Adrian set his phone on the tray table camera, angled up, recording every wrinkle of authority. "If I exit this footage, exits with me to 45 million followers across platforms my company licenses. You sure that's Aurora's final brand statement today?" Captain Sheridan blinked. He hadn't studied for this question in simulator training. Bradley broke the silence, voice dripping contempt. A true gentleman would move without spectacle. A true airline wouldn't sell dignity for $300, Adrian countered. The line sliced through the pressurized air. Someone in coach clapped once before remembering where they were. Officer 1 reached lightly for Adrian's elbow. Adrian stood before contact, smooth and unhurried, pocketing his phone, but keeping it rolling. "Let history have a clear shot," he said to the lens. Then to the officers, "Lead the way. I'll walk." Gasps trailed him past rows of widened eyes. Chloe's cheeks burned crimson. Bradley's fists twitched impotently. Victoria slid triumphantly into 1C, adjusting the seat controls like a monarch rearranging a throne. But as Adrian stepped through the jetway, the live-stream audience spiked to 62,000. One viewer posted his LinkedIn bio, another posted Aurora's stock ticker already dipping red, and the college kid's final caption before signal dropped sealed everyone's fate. They just kicked their biggest investor off his own plane. The match had met gasoline, and the cabin lights still glowed, blissfully unaware. Adrian walks the jet bridge as though it were a courtroom aisle flanked by 2 security officers who suddenly look more nervous than authoritative. The moment his soles hit terminal carpet, he stops pockets buzzing with push alerts. The livestream has passed 80,000 viewers, Aurora's ticker has slipped another 3 points, and hashtags pairing the airline's name with racism and boycott are exploding. He exhales once steady, then speed dials Helix Minds COO. Maya Chen answers on the first ring from a rideshare 2 miles away. Before she can speak, he frames the mission in 11 words, full crisis response. Meet me in Lounge E, 20 minutes. She hears the edge in his voice, the same edge that once turned an unpaid electricity bill into a seed funding round, and replies with a single syllable, running. Adrian pivots to the security team, lingering awkwardly. You gentlemen were misled, he says, tone devoid of malice. Pull the body cam footage before it's erased. You'll need it for your report. One officer nods, already regretting the cameo that may haunt his resume. He finds an empty gate, props his phone against a departure monitor, and records a 40-second statement, calm, factual damning. No names, just timestamps, policies violated, and a promise of formal action. The clip uploads while he opens a group chat titled Helix Mind War Room and drops 3 directives, legal draft injunctive relief. Comms compile footage and social metrics. Investment prepare 10B filing. Blue ticks appear in seconds. The machine he built is awake. Across town, Aurora Air's PR chief bursts into CEO Jonathan Pierce's office mid-sentence, laptop thrust forward. The frozen video frame shows Chloe pocketing bills. Jonathan, that passenger is Adrian Brooks, Helix Minds founder. Pierce's face drains of color. He's been courting Brooks for months, praying the tech upgrade will mask Aurora's aging skeleton. Tell me we didn't offboard him, he whispers. The PR chief simply plays the clip. Back in lounge, Imaya arrives with 2 lieutenants corporate counsel Daniela Katz and market analytics head Reuben Scott. They spread out tablets like playing cards. Daniela has already pulled Aurora's contract draft. Reuben flashes a live stock graph hemorrhaging value in real time. Down 9% and accelerating, he reports. Retail investors smell blood. Adrian's plan crystallizes aloud. Step 1. Use his 22% holding plus allied funds to trigger an emergency shareholder meeting under Section 303 of Aurora's bylaws, requires 24 hours notice. Step 2. File a temporary restraining order blocking any shredding of internal communications linked to Flight 77. Step 3. Leverage the canceled tech partnership as both carrot and stick, reinstate only if the airline purges culpable staff and implements Helix Minds' bias audit system company-wide. Make the meeting happen by dawn, he tells Daniela. Reuben schedule a public webcast for halftime of the Lakers game viewer Spike guaranteed. Maya draft a statement that we will not tolerate customer-facing discrimination at companies we invest in. They nod, laptops click, caffeine is summoned and ignored. Meanwhile, on Flight 77, Victoria reclines in 1C, unaware of the digital storm. Bradley receives a terse cockpit message, stock collapsing. Identify incident immediately. He glances at Chloe. She feels the $300 in her pocket morph into a brick of ice. Inside Aurora's glass headquarters, board members dial in from beach houses and golf carts as overnight staff scramble to convert the auditorium into a crisis center. The legal team confirms Adrian's ownership stake is enough to call the meeting unilaterally if management drags its feet. Pierce tries a direct call. Adrian lets it ring twice before answering on speaker. Mr. Pierce, he begins voice level by sunrise. The market will open on your apology or your obituary. Which headline should investors read? Pierce stammers about isolated misconduct. Adrian counters with numbers. 86,000 concurrent viewers trending in 16 countries, 9% market cap evaporated in 45 minutes. Isolation ends when evidence goes viral. He ends the call politely, then turns to Maya. No theatrics, just leverage. He reminds, though the fire in his eyes suggests theatrics are coming anyway. Daniela slides over a draft email invoking shareholder rights. He taps send. Ruben cues a push notification to financial journalists Helix Mind CEO to address Aurora Air Bias Incident 10 a.m. PST. The revenge isn't a scream, it's a sequence. Emails streak across time zones, subpoenas auto-populate, and a countdown begins on every device inside Aurora's HQ, 10:00 a.m., 20 hours away, when the man they mistook for an inconvenience will walk into their boardroom holding a mirror they can't dodge. By the time Adrian closes his laptop, Aurora's stock has hit a 15% drop. Analysts on cable news speculate bankruptcy, and Chloe's $300 bribe has become the most expensive tip in commercial aviation history. The fuse he lit on Seat 1C is now a roaring spotlight, and every shadow it reveals will be dealt with before the next sunrise. Jonathan Pierce convened the emergency board meeting at 6 a.m. But by the time the directors filed into the glass-walled chamber, Adrian Brooks had already been there, an hour hands folded, eyes calm video looping on the main screen. The moment the last director took a seat, he pressed play once more. Chloe pocketing the cash. Bradley sneering the word, worthy Captain Sheridan hiding behind his epaulets, Adrian escorted away in silence. No music, no commentary, just raw humiliation on infinite repeat. When the clip ended, Adrian spoke first. Gentlemen and ladies, your market cap fell 18% overnight. In 90 minutes, Wall Street opens. That slide becomes a landslide. I am willing to halt it. Every seat creaked as bodies leaned forward. Conditions are simple, immediate termination of all personnel captured on that footage, lifetime ban for the passenger who bribed them, public acknowledgement of systemic failure, and adoption of Helix Mind Bias 0 across every touch point. Refuse and I liquidate my 22% stake at 9:29 a.m. sharp. A director tried the old defense. Due process. Due process is what happens before the plane leaves the gate, Adrian interrupted, voice flat steel. This is damage control, legal counsel whispered with Pierce. Pierce cleared his throat. Terminations violate union protocol. Suspension may be 17%, Reuben Scott announced from the back phone in hand. Another percent just vanished. A chill spread faster than the number. Pierce caved first. Vote. Hands rose, some trembling, all unanimous. The ultimatum became a board resolution at 6:12 a.m. HR drafted termination notices in 6 minutes. Security printed badges marked visitor for the 3 soon-to-be ex-employees. At 6:30, they were escorted into a bare conference room where an HR manager read the letters aloud while a corporate lawyer recorded every syllable. Chloe sobbed into her sleeve. Bradley barked about lawsuits. Captain Sheridan stared at the floor as if searching for a hatch he could fly through. When security collected their lanyards, each realized the internet had already collected their names. Upstairs, Adrian signed a memorandum grounding Aurora Air's entire network for 36 hours. 48,000 passengers rerouted, millions in revenue, vaporized so that every employee from baggage handler to CEO would complete a 4-hour immersive bias simulation before wheels up. Grounding shows remorse, a PR director murmured. Grounding shows resolve, Adrian corrected. By sunrise, local news helicopters orbited the headquarters. The first reporter to breach the lobby shoved a microphone at Pierce. Adrian stepped into frame instead. Aurora failed me and countless unseen travelers, he said, voice carrying the hush of controlled fury. They have chosen transformation over denial. I will hold them to it. Every network cut in. Social feeds detonated. Ground for Good trended worldwide within 11 minutes. At 8 a.m., security cameras captured Chloe, Bradley, and Sheridan walking the gauntlet to the parking garage. Phones raised flashes, white-hot whispers slicing. Bradley shielded his eyes. Someone shouted, "How much did dignity cost you?" No one answered. Inside a makeshift auditorium, 2,000 staff watched a live-stream apology. Pierce faced the lens, shoulders visibly quivering. "Discrimination hid in our cabin. We grounded the fleet to ground that bias," he said, then ceded the microphone to Adrian. He did not raise his voice. He raised a mirror. "Bias isn't thunder. It's background hum. Today, the hum stops." Employees who had never heard a CEO speak without spin felt something between shame and ignition. The stock opened down 23%, then clawed back 5 points in the first hour, analysts calling the grounding costly but credible. Rival airlines issued statements of solidarity, secretly thanking Aurora for drawing fire away. Consumer advocates called it a blueprint for corporate atonement. At noon, Adrian met with union leaders. They expected hostility. He offered partnership. "This program won't bury jobs," he said, sliding a tablet across the table. "It will bury excuses." By the time coffee cooled, the union had pledged cooperation, and a joint hotline for bias reporting monitored by Helix Mind AI, audited by humans. The final blow landed at 3 p.m., when the Civil Aviation Authority announced a surprise review of Aurora's past discrimination complaints, triggered by a petition that reached 1 million signatures in 8 hours. Shares dipped again, yet Pierce exhaled in relief. At least the scandal was now an open wound, not a hidden infection. Transparency hurt, but deceit would kill. That evening, Adrian boarded a charter back to San Francisco. No cameras, no applause, just the soft click of a seatbelt. He opened his laptop to a live dashboard training completion rates, climbing sentiment scores, flipping from rage red to cautious amber. Revenge, it turned out, wasn't a roar. It was a rewrite running in real time. And somewhere at 32,000 feet, an airline learned that the true cost of a $300 bribe is counting by the billion, while the man they tried to belittle watched the numbers stabilize, satisfied not by ruin, but by reconstruction. 6 weeks later, the scoreboard looks nothing like opening day. Aurora Air, once a punchline on late-night talk, shows now tops consumer trust charts for the first time in its 30-year history. Passenger complaints involving race plunge 81%. Satisfaction among Black and Latino travelers spikes so sharply that rival carriers quietly request demos of Helix Mind Bias Zero. Analysts who predicted bankruptcy now call the grounding the most expensive apology money ever saved. But the human echoes are louder than the metrics. Chloe Ramirez bags groceries at a corner market where customers recognize her from the clip. Every ding of the register feels like the $300 she took in seat 1C, replayed in stereo. Bradley O'Connell's inbox is a graveyard of rejection letters. No airline wants the worthy customer's purser on payroll. Captain Mark Sheridan, stripped of his wings, teaches situational ethics to cadets who study the video as a cautionary tale. All three have enrolled in Helix Mind's second flight program, facing immersive modules that force them to hear their own words through the headsets of passengers they never saw. Victoria Langford becomes a meme first-class Karen, her hedge fund, suspending her public duties until the storm passes. Paparazzi catch her leaving a diversity workshop in dark glasses. The comment section agrees the shade is metaphorical at best. Inside Aurora's refurbished training hangar, 14,000 employees cycle through bias simulations so vivid some walk out shaking. Exit surveys show a 93% belief that the airline truly changed the other 7% updating resumes before the industry blacklists them. Stock that cratered 23% the morning after the incident climbs 12 points beyond its pre-scandal high, riding a surge of loyalty from travelers who fly Aurora because they owned their mess. As for Adrian Brooks, he reinstates the $45 million contract on one handwritten condition pasted to the boardroom door: respect is non-negotiable. He donates his personal share of Aurora's rebound profits to scholarships for teen coders in Detroit, then issues a quiet memo to Helix Mind staff mission statement, accomplished next battle loading. The promise made at his mother's grave looks less like a vow and more like a blueprint being printed airline by airline, bias by bias. Some stories end with wreckage. This one ends with a runway new concrete fresh paint, and every departure reminding the world what happens when a $12,000 seat tries to evict the wrong passenger. Every headline in this saga feels explosive, yet the real detonation hides in something as small as 3 folded bills. That moment exposes a truth bigger than any airline cabin. Bias rarely kicks down the door wearing villain's armor. It sidles in through routine wrapped in policy powered by hush money, too trivial to seem dangerous. Aurora Air did not implode because a crew shouted slurs. It imploded because good people treated prejudice like a seating upgrade, negotiable, profitable, normal. Adrian's response rewrites the standard revenge script. He doesn't burn their house down. He forces them to renovate it, brick by humiliating brick, while the world watches on live stream. The lesson is surgical in a hyper-connected age. Reputation is a stock price that updates every second, and the camera in row 3 wields more leverage than any private boardroom handshake. Corporations can no longer hide systemic rot behind glossy slogans. Ethics audit themselves, now crowdsourced and time-stamped. Yet the ending refuses easy moral math. Chloe Bradley and Captain Sheridan lose careers, but the story refuses to leave them in ashes. Accountability without a road back breeds only bitterness. The second flight program argues that penance must include education and re-entry, or society recycles its villains instead of retiring them. Even Victoria Langford, stripped of designer entitlement, must stare into a mirror no filter can soften. Justice, then, is less about permanent exile and more about enforced evolution. For every viewer who has felt dismissed for a name, a shade, a seat assignment, the takeaway lands hard. Never underestimate quiet composure, armed with proof policy and platform. For every manager tempted to trade integrity for convenience, the caution is sharper. Somebody in your less important seat might own a quarter of your company by breakfast. And for anyone witnessing bias in real time, the call is clear record report, refuse silence. Because silence is the currency that keeps discrimination solvent. In short, this flight shows that power may board wearing a hoodie, justice may speak in monotone, and the tiniest act of contempt can cost billions when the wrong eyes and the right lens are watching. Bias tried to cash in a first-class favor and wound up paying in billions pink slips and a 36-hour airline shutdown. Aurora's skyline makeover, Adrian's calm demolition, and the world's digital jury proved one truth. Dignity is non-negotiable currency. If you've ever watched someone buy special treatment with a wink and a tip, drop your story below and tag your city. Let's map injustice in real time. Smash the like button if you believe respect should never be up for auction, and hit subscribe so you're on board when the next power play backfires. Share this video with one friend who still thinks it's just a seat. Then buckle up, our next episode reveals how a security guard fired for helping a homeless veteran turned a parking lot incident into a nationwide policy overhaul. Justice keeps boarding. Don't miss the departure.